let's have a look at some video cameras. Got 3 of these, the same model. Panasonic AJ-D215 and some of them come with viewfinders, none of them come with lens. It's a little bit annoying because the lens mount doesn't seem to be as standard as what's on some of the other cameras I've got. It's DVCPRO format. I thought that's great, I can use those tapes that I've got. But unfortunately, the tapes that I've got are smaller than what this takes, which is a bit annoying. Whole box of brand new tapes, and it says there, please only use the L cassette, the larger version than this. So yeah, there you go, can't use the tapes. Just gonna make this a bit more difficult to try these out. So here's another one that's got a viewfinder on it. You can see it's a very big viewfinder, not really sure why. They got this kind of rubbery thing here which has gone really horrible and sticky, so that's nice. So I guess that's to rest your face on so you can stick it to the camera to avoid dropping it. Usual kind of stuff on here: gain, white balance, bars on and off. There's a power switch here. On the front there's the VTR switch, auto white balance setting, or was it exposure, something like that. The lens connector. Then on the back there's 2 audio inputs, power, this firewire, which is good I guess, digitally transfer the video over, and then there's battery mount there. It's got some audio controls and a menu, and just the tape there. Connections, there's S-video out, 2 audio outs, video out, no Genlock input, so yeah, difficult to use in multi-camera live things. And then there's some tape transport controls. These probably work, we'll try it out. I found this lens, it was from that camera that had permanently wired it. I think that was a JVC SVHS camera that for some reason they permanently wired the lens on. Very bizarre, but that lens does fit. None of the other lenses I tried fit. So let's turn this on and see what it does. Got 12 volt power, and the switch down here. Nope, didn't like that. The power supply just turned off. Okay, I worked out what's wrong. The power supply was limited. Now that is fine. It has turned on, and looking in the viewfinder there, it says black balance error. It's interesting, and it's quite flickery, but we should be able to see that. Let's connect a video cable monitor output, and we'll switch. See, it's kind of working, but it's flickering around in a dodgy way, so it's not working that well. Yeah, since we can't plug the lens in, we don't get any auto iris or power zoom or anything like that. So the camera, it's kind of working, but yeah, it's the sort of thing you'd get when the capacitors are gone bad, isn't it? The usual approach. The cassette door opens, but unfortunately we can't put a tape in there. Perhaps we'll try turning on the other one and see whether that works any better. These viewfinders come off by unscrewing this, and then there's a tiny delicate connector in the middle there. I think it's, yeah, it is the same as the viewfinder in the Panasonic SVHS camera that we took apart quite a long time ago. Okay, let's see if this one does any different or better. We'll take it apart soon. We'll take apart one of them at least. Backup battery empty. Oh, it's flickering the same amount. Very similar to the other one. That's weird. Suggests it's not the camera, if it's the same. I think it's a viewfinder problem. Sometimes those are involved in sync. No, it doesn't make any difference. Alright, well, let's take this apart and see what's going on inside it. Just get these extra bits out of the way. Take off this side first. See what the cassette mechanism looks like. got retained screws there for the cassette door, that's nice. I think these ones are retained too, but you've got to get the casing lifting off, otherwise you'll just unscrew them from the washer things that are retaining the screws. There is an emergency eject thing there, it says turn it that way. Oh, I guess it goes through the unthreading process? No, it's winding that. Oh yeah. Yeah, and then that will never come back, will it? Because it's got to the end of its travel. There you go. Okay, look at that. We've got a very DV cam looking mechanism there. Tiny little head and all the tape bits and pieces that drag the tape out are all very close together, so it looks like it can use the small cassettes. Yeah, everything's gathered in the middle there. I guess it's just the standard, isn't it? So the mechanism can be similar for large and small cassette. Some camera business in here. There's a D9 plug connector. I don't know what that's about. Probably there's some sort of remote like programming or controlling, upgrading thing you can do through that. It says there on the circuit board test connector. Guess you can test it. Camera business in there. Oh, probably that stuff, it's got that wire going into the camera board. Presumably that's the camera board there. And that goes onto this header, so you must be able to get access to test points on that. Maybe that's not a serial port, maybe it's just more like test points. Let's see. Can't see what's going on to the D9. Oh yeah, there are some tracks, goes onto one of those ribbon cables. Maybe it is a serial port then. There'd be 1, 2, 3, and 5, the transmit receive ground, something like that. The mechanism's on a plate there. I wonder if that comes out easily for servicing. Seems like there's an audio board horizontally there because these wires off of the audio head there go straight onto it. This is solenoid. Oh look, there's a little head cleaner thing. I wonder if that's made of stuff that doesn't go bad, like what we see in the VHS machine that's made of a bit of foam and it's gone all sticky and gross, so it just clogs up the head as soon as it's used. Hopefully that's something better and hasn't wrecked the head yet. It's all on one floating assembly. Maybe it comes out easily. There's quite a lot of boards through on the other side there. Let's take the other side off too. There's a mode check button and a circuit breaker on the bottom. It says breaker there. I wonder if this camera would function as a digital to analog converter or the other way around when you use the Firewire port. And it says DVCPRO on the connector. Is that another format different to HD cam or DV cam or DV? Probably. Make your own thing. 'Cause I've never done much with DVCPRO before. Or anything other than owning some tapes and not having any machines that it goes in. Okay. There's a bunch of things on this side. Now there's the battery that's worn out. I guess there's no point in having that anymore. Now all these are red screws, so you're supposed to take them off for servicing. Oh, I touched the side, it's really sticky. Okay, so that there wires up to the audio level controls and presumably that microphone selection. Bit weird to not have a screen on the side, isn't it? This must be a cheap camera. Low cost. Okay, we've got, looks like a power supply board there. LM2577. So some sort of switch mode controller. And then there's this board with all kinds of stuff on it. It says VTR main. I guess, yeah, that looks like the signal coming from the video head there into it. All the wires are twisted together. Okay, let's see if this lifts up. Wide memory chips. There's usually flash memory, isn't it, in that style package? More screws here. Maybe I was supposed to undo this stuff and it would hinge out. Is that what's going on? I think so. I think I ruined that by not doing it properly. Oh, now we lost a screw in it. I think this all hinges out as one piece. There we go. Oh, and there's more boards in there. And that's also VCR. Yeah, servo. Yeah, there's some ribbons there. Must be direct drive reels. Each one has its own motor. And is that either capstan or head motor? I think that's the head motor. Capstan is probably that one. Or somewhere else. And it's got a big connector there, but it doesn't connect onto anything. And that goes to... There's a ribbon cable there coming off that board. Like board to board style connector, and it goes onto that front board, which was called VTR main. So that's almost everything, isn't it? Through there and that, which looks like some power supply. And then that one there for the, presumably the video signal off the head. And everything else is self-contained about the VCR. So where's the camera stuff? That must be this. Does it say anything like that on it? It's got lots of part numbers. Yeah, it must be the camera, because this ribbon cable here with the blocks of foam surrounding a suppression thing, ferrite, that's all that connects over to the camera area. Just that bit, I think. Oh no, not just that, because it's also got the stuff that comes through from that test connector board, which is 2 ribbon cables. So where do they go to? They go all the way along the bottom here. And it looks like one of them comes up on this power supply board. And what happens to the other one? The other one, I think, is that one. Yeah. Yes, they can move around now. Okay. Well, that's quite good. Pretty exciting. You need to take the camera part out fully. But also, let's have a look at the mechanism. There are some screws here to take the cassette loading door thing off. And maybe we should... we're going to have to put the side back on to power it up, aren't we, to eject it? And we use the emergency eject. Okay, that's the cassette loading mechanism. It's all very lightweight aluminium. Now, the cassette mechanism. Look at that. It's very interesting. It's got... It looks like the reels can move in for the small tapes. But they've put some bracket things there that stop it from moving. So it looks like that this is based on a mechanism that can be used with the small or the big tapes. But it's just been impeded, limited to big tapes only by these brackets. We pull those out. Well, actually, I already knew all that because I'd taken the third one apart before, and I've already removed those bits and pieces. The third camera, and what I want to do is see, can we get it to work with the small tapes. So this one here, it's the same model. I've just already taken those brackets out, and you can see now when there's something here which I'm not really sure. I think that's just part of that emergency eject thing, because when you turn that, it pushes on that rod there. It's a bit out of alignment because I've already messed with it. It winds that back so that if you're trying to do emergency eject and the tape's all threaded up, as you're turning this, it'll be bumping the take-up reel to pull the tape back into the cassette housing, and then eventually it gets to the eject position. So I don't think we need to worry about that, so that's fine because that will go away when this slides inwards. But there's that thing that it pushes on, which is to do with the tape ejecting or eject door. That it also loses its brakes because that's there. And this one here, there's not very much impeding that, but again it loses its brakes. Yeah, there are solenoids there that have a magnet in them, so it can maintain the in position, and then when you reverse the signal to the coil, then it pops out because it cancels out the magnetic field from the permanent magnet. So those brakes aren't going to function. I wonder if we should just pull those out and get them out of the way. Oh, it's also part of this stuff, is it? It's the solenoid. I thought that lever would come out too. Guess not. Yeah, it's wrapped around that. Oh, that's probably important, isn't it? That's a cassette in switch. Okay, we'll have to bodge that as well. Is that a split washer? Looks like it. Well, we got 3 of them, so wrecking one won't be too bad. Okay, now we just got to work out where those solenoid wires go. No, we can't because this one doesn't have the back off. Alright, they'll just sit there for now. So I need to see does the tape push this, or is that the cassette loading door that pushes that? It's all the tape. Yeah, nothing from the loading door pushes that. There's probably another switch somewhere that gets pushed by, see, there's the latch part of the door, a little hook thing, and I think it's also something to do with those. Not sure about that, but yeah, it's definitely that. So one way is in and one way is not in. So probably, well, one of those will be the right protect, and the other one's going to be cassette in, maybe, or maybe it's different types. Anyway, I already prepared one of those tapes by pulling off that and pulling out the brakes, because normally the brake is actuated by this post that sticks up here, but now that's not in the right place anymore. So yeah, that's not going to work. It would need to have another one that comes in further for using the small tapes. Oh, this is already threaded up. Okay, probably because I had it turned on and was doing stuff with it. So let's power it up and see what it does, and then we'll have a look at trying to mount the tape in. There we go, it's unthreaded now. I wonder if we push these. The problem is, does it think that it's ejected now? Might do. Where does it sense that it's not ejected? Oh, the other problem is probably because of the lights. Oh, there you go. It threaded up. Doesn't seem to want to do anything though, does it? It's threaded up, the head's spinning, so it seems like it's all ready to go. And when I push these buttons, See, the light comes on, like it's going to do the thing. That's flashing though, I don't know why that's flashing. Maybe if we put the viewfinder on it would tell us what's going on. Put on the monitor. I guess that doesn't tell you stuff though, does it? No, it's just got a blank screen. Completely blank. Weird. Thought it would at least have a camera picture on it. Guess because it's in play mode. Oh yeah, if it's in stop then yeah, it's showing what the camera would show if it has a lens on it. And you put it into play, it goes blank, but no playing activity going on. Does it know something that we don't? See, it hasn't wound the, you call that the capstan. Oh, there we go. Just put it in by yourself. Okay, it's now running. That's weird. Why doesn't it pull in the capstan by itself? Now I made a big mess of the tape. Oh no, it's wrecked it. It's wrecked it now. Got all chewed up. It's not very good for it, is it? Because it, the pressure on that seems to make it go in and out of contact. Now that's going to be all chewed up. So it's probably a bit of a losing battle trying to get this to play something. The problem is the tape's blank, so even if it was playing properly, we wouldn't be able to know. Or we wouldn't know. Maybe we should stick the lens on the camera and see if we can do a little bit of recording, but then rewinding the tape doesn't seem to be reliable. The tape is just munted now because it keeps twisting up when you try and wind it in. Okay, it's gone straight, but seems that, oh, do we eject it? It doesn't want to go into record mode at all. I'm pushing the VTR start stop button on the front, but doesn't seem to do anything. That's a bit disappointing. Oh yeah, it's doing the fast forwarding, although yeah, it's doing that. Yeah, I think this is a bit of a losing battle, unfortunately. Because now we've munted the tape again. Alright, well let's just take it apart more, because I think trying to get this to work with the wrong size tape is, yeah, something you need a bit more patience for. So let's go and do it on the other machine, because we already started taking that one apart by taking the other boards out. Just get rid of the handle. It's all corroded in. All the screws have gone dodgy. Oh yeah, the camera that we were testing though, that doesn't have the flickery picture, so maybe that one is in better condition than the other ones, than this one, which had a very flickery, weird picture on it. So that's interesting. Wonder what's happened. This is in the age of surface mount electrolytic capacitors, which means that they're probably all gone bad or about to. They're degrading. That's highly likely. Okay, and then because there's a tally light on the back there, there's a connector for that. The wire is taped down. Some sort of plate there holding the mechanism down. I actually wonder, is there different versions of this that are more or less the same with different mechanisms in them? So that's the connectors. It's just joined up by that there. That seems to be the audio output. Some unshielded wires, and then the video is under these 3 single core shielded wires, so I guess that's the Lumochroma and the composite. Then the firewire port, that's got two 2-core shielded cables. Let's have a look at the connector for that. So it seems to be an industrial one. A little cap over it. Good to keep your firewire port safe. Wow, that screw's really done up though. Oh, it's got a nut on the other side of it. Wonder why that is. It seems like they've used the other screw that holds the firewire port in is being used as a ground post thing. So we can't get that out because it's, yeah, we've got to get to the other side. So if we take these off, hopefully that will release the whole back panel thing. Or we might do that one as well. Now, you can see there's a ground wire. Nope. A ground wire joined onto that screw. There's a nut there. Needs a kind of tiny little spanner. Open end spanner to get in there. Don't have any of those. It's got a thread locker on it as well. So once we get it loose, if we hold it, we should be able to unscrew it. So we'll be unscrewing from two places at once. The nut and the screw through the panel. Although there probably wasn't a screw into the panel, was there? It was just into this nut because there's nothing behind it for it to screw onto, whereas the other ones that were screwing onto the die-cast body of the camera. Okay, here we go. DVCPRO firewire port. Seems like it's got a clamp thing down the side which holds the connector in. See that? And then the connection to it is two wires. There'll be a transmit pair and a receive pair and ground, and that will be goes into here. And see there's a Texas Instrument chip and there's two common mode choke things there. So that will be the firewire PHY chip, and then there's probably some hardware encoder decoder thing somewhere for the video, sorting that out. So that's exciting, that's good. Now this VCR mechanism, we got it mostly unscrewed. Very interesting, these capacitors here, Panasonic capacitors, NHG series. I think it says CE-NHG. They are 12 volt, 4700 microfarads. I don't know, I've seen 12 volt capacitors before. Normally 10, then goes to 16, like an E8 series, is it? E12, but that one, yeah. Wonder why that is, where they specifically wanted a capacitor that wasn't too big for some applications, so they created another voltage capacitor that isn't normally seen. Doesn't look like it'll be done for this one because there's plenty of room around there. So the VCR mechanism is coming out, but we have to undo a bunch of stuff. Then on this side there's this big ribbon cable, and then here there's that cable, and that's probably all you have to do. Oh no, the power connection, which was that 4-way. There you go, the VCR mechanism came out. Let's have a look at it. Oh no, the sticky gross stuff from the side of the camera is making a mess on my bench. Guess that's to be expected. DVCPRO VCR deck, and it looks like that metal plate that it's sitting in is just a surround, and that the mechanism is attached to that board itself. I find it quite interesting that they still put in the rails for these reels to move on even though they don't have that system in place. There's multiple levels. You see there's a die-cast part to the chassis, and then that's screwed onto this plate, and then that plate's screwed onto this plate. Okay, it's got a part number, of course. Nichicon capacitors there. Must be good quality stuff. Now we can see where the solenoids connect, which is what we were trying to pull out on the other one. See, there was a bunch of wires twisted together, which I thought meant they'd twisted it with other things, but they haven't. It's just the solenoid wires have been twisted together on themselves in a weird way like that, which makes multiple loops. It's a bit strange, because they're not twisted together, they're twisted independently. And then the same thing is done on the other one. Although that time they've twisted them together rather than twisting the red one separate to the black one. Quite large surface mount right angle connector. Wonder why that is, instead of these smaller types. Maybe it's just so you don't get them confused. There's a three-way version of that connector here. What does that go to? Probably that solenoid. Yeah, it looks like it. And then in between there's the loading motor. Let's take the mechanism off of this base. I'm going to undo the rest of the ribbon cables and connectors. That's a weird one. Is that already undone? No. This goes on top and then lift up that lever and it comes out. That's strange. Okay, I think all the wires are undone now. Just looking at that piece there, I think we have to take off this head cleaning assembly first. A lot of things come off at once. The dew sensor is also there, but there's a small spring on the side that is attaching it to that lever, which doesn't come with it. That spring is going to get destroyed because it's too short to reach in there. That's weird, because I thought that would come off as part of this assembly. Oh, okay, so when that solenoid moves, all it does is pull on that little ring there, which is where the end of the spring went through. That spring is now, it's pinged away to the inside. But we still can't get easy access to the screw. You see, there is the screw that's holding the mechanism down to this plate. But it's still got this bracket, and just the emergency eject thing. That's still in the way. We have to take that off as well, do we? It's a bit strange, because I thought that the mechanism would be an all-in-one piece that can be mounted up by itself. It doesn't. Why does it have to be dismantled before you can mount it? It must be really tightly coupled with this plate then, more than what it appeared originally. Maybe we'll take the board off the bottom. That's the first step. Maybe this VCR part is made in a separate factory and then tested by itself, and then that gets then installed in the cameras. A bit of stuff going on the bottom. Logic chips, Motorola, CMOS stuff, 74HC11, and then other CMOS 14013, 14538, and their date codes seem to be, I don't know if those are date codes. That says 92, that one says 90. Yeah, not sure about that. They might not be date codes. It's a TI chip there. It's got a 94 on it. I guess this would be a mid-90s sort of thing. It looks like someone's replaced the capacitors. Yeah, someone's definitely replaced the capacitors in this. So it's been recapped. Because you can see there that the soldering on them is quite rough. And the other way you can tell is because they wobble side to side. Whereas the original ones, they won't do that. See, the first thing I suspected was this one, because you can see there the leg of the capacitor is barely soldered down. Yes, it just ripped off. So there's no way that it would have been done like that in the factory. So someone's replaced these. What a job. I don't think they've replaced these big ones though, because the soldering on those looks good, like what you'd expect when it's being done in reflow oven, properly soldered, but all these little ones, they look dodgy. Someone's had a go at that. Wonder if they've done the other boards in the camera. Yeah, there's a weird, unusual 12 volt capacitors. Okay, we can see underneath now. Not as much as I want though. I want to get that thing off the plate. Somehow that stuff has to get out of the way. Yeah, let's just get it out of the way. If we pull off the lever for that emergency eject thing, because you see it's got, in the end of it, it's got a larger bit, a keyhole, so by taking that piece off, then this can slide over far enough that it can come off of its little post there, and now we can get access to that screw. And then these two here, yeah, these are actually number 2, aren't they? It should be the screwdriver. Now that should lift up, but it's got all sorts of wires and things. Oh, and there's cable ties holding them. Huge cable tie to use on such tiny little wires. Now the other thing is those brakes, because they leave the solenoids behind, because those solenoids are attached to the plate. Alright, the mechanism is liberated. It does look like the capstan motor was by this wire as suspected, and yeah, this other one here is the head motor, and then that's the pickups from the head. Perhaps we can take out the video head. This one's not going back together. We've got 3 of them, so it doesn't matter. And that other one we played with was probably the better working one, although it probably needs to have a mechanism transplant from the other one we haven't wrecked yet. Although I don't have any tapes, so yeah. Oh, or a proper lens. So it's a bit of a lost cause trying to get it to go. Alright, look at that. Tiny little video head. Head drum. Interesting double-sided flat flex PCB. So for at the beginning it's got 2 sides, and then there's a bunch of wires there that transfer the stuff onto the bottom layer, and then only the bottom layer continues, or around the other way, only the top layer continues. So it just ends there. You see that's just uncovered, so it's a matte finish, it's not smooth like that. It's just the bottom side of that bit. Looks like it's got 2 pickups on each side. Do you change the head on this, the top part? There are screws. Also, you can see in there are some little springs, so the grounding is done by 2 little springs that push against the central shaft, which stays still. Guess we should take those screws out and see if the top of the drum comes off. It does, look at that. Oh, that's quite a neat thing. So for changing the head, you don't have to worry about desoldering any wires. See, there's just gold pads on the little head bits there, and then in the base there are gold contacts which press onto it, or press onto them. That's quite neat. So it's an easy-ish head to change, and probably that red dot there helps you get it around the right way with that red there, maybe. The problem is how you're going to get those little springs back in the right place so that they are pushing on the central shaft. Wow, tiny little thing. Okay, well let's have a look at the reel tables. Since we undo these little brackets and get those out of the way, then the reels can slide along on their little rails like that. We need to get the brakes out of the way. Okay, see that the shafts are just held in place by some countersunk style screws. Need number 0 for that. Small shafts. It's got plastic on the bottom of it. Oh, that makes the things that the rails go on. I guess that's fine because it will hardly ever get like moved. Like you're not loading and unloading tapes continuously. So running sliding along a plastic rail, it's not going to wear out that fast since it's hardly used. It doesn't come off easily. I guess it's fused on. There's a little tiny stop there. That thing. Does that do anything other than stop that from coming off? Okay, it came off. See the coils and the various Hall effects sensors in the center there, and then a fancier one on the edge, I guess. Suppose that's what it is. Kind of looks like an IR thing. There's nothing reflective on that. Got a little tiny ball bearing race in there. Move very smoothly. We should look at the poles of the motor. Oh. There you go. So there's that many poles, so they're about the same size as the coils. There's a couple more, isn't there? Poles, then coils. So it's always chasing. Alright, that's good. That's the motor. Oh look, the bearing stayed on the shaft this time. Little tiny ball bearing. There's a bunch of gears under there for loading and unloading. So I must move this plate around. It's getting a bit dirty. Oh, there's grease. Grease got spread all over everything as usual. If we undo that, will this plate come off? That's probably the bit that pulls the plate along. No, I undid the screw by not pushing hard enough. It's got thread locker on it. Let's see, will that move now? No. Somewhere something drives that along. If we take the solenoid off, now there's oil. Got through the grease, now there's oil everywhere from the gears. Oh, okay, there's a mode switch in there. That's what those wires go to. So it can tell where it is and what it's doing. Okay, there's the motor that drives it. And there's the mode switch. So that will be out of alignment now. So that pokes through a hole in this gear here. Oh, and that's ruined now because I undid those screws there. So it doesn't adjust. I was hoping we can get it over far enough that it will come off. It's probably a procedure to do this properly, so you don't end up wrecking anything, because I've jammed the mechanism up now. Okay, that plate came off. It was not willing though, and it's bent that stuff there because of how far it had to get pushed to make it come off. Okay, well that means now we can see down here below. So that little arm there, that must be the, oh yeah, that thing there. That one there does that side, and yeah, that one does that side. Ah, you can see that. It's a blue one. That looks like it's to do with back tension, and it's done with a Hall effect sensor under there. See, there'll be a little magnet on that white bit, and then a Hall sensor under it, so it can measure the tension of the tape. That's neat. Some kind of gearbox thing here. Oh, it's a worm drive. Oh, that must be where the motor goes. Is it? No, there must be another thing that pushed onto it. It's already fallen out and gone somewhere. It's probably that. Yeah, that's the top of a worm. Should go there. And then Yep, the shaft of the motor's got some flats on it, and then that would engage in there like that, and then that drives this bit, which is what was sitting under the mode switch like that. And then that will be driving that plate that we took off here, which then pushes on all the other bits and pieces to move them around. So we could take the capstan motor out. It's still buried by heaps of stuff. The pinch roller there, little tiny thing. Great! That's the DVCPRO mechanism that can only take large tapes, but it's got stuff in it which makes it look like there's another version which takes both types. So what's exciting is I do have another DVCPRO camera that only takes small tapes. So we'll look at that in another video, and we'll see how similar the mechanism is or isn't to that one. But let's finish off by taking a look at the electronics in here, and we'll see what does the camera section look like. And I think then we'll be done with this one. Might as well take the battery mount off as well while we're here, to see what that's all about. The battery mount is a sort of universal thing that you screw onto the back of the cameras depending on, and you buy that mount that suits the type of batteries that you already use. Keep everything consistent. We've seen this one before, haven't we? Anton Bayer Gold Mount Logic series. See, this one that has an automatic light control 85 watts max, and you can turn that on and off, and I think it plugs into there. Is that a D-tap? It says output 10 amps max, and in there is some electronics, so presumably does something. Well, I don't know what would be automatic about the light output. Does that mean it will turn off the light once the battery's going a bit flat, maybe to save power? Not really sure what else this can do, because it doesn't appear to have any sort of light sensor that you'd think you'd have for automatic light, unless it's something to do with this plug. Oh, that D-tap thing fell apart. I think that's what it is. D-tap. So now I don't know which way around it went, because it is keyed slightly by some radiuses on some of the corners. And that thing there looks like a fuse in some sort of housing. It is, look at that. It sort of presses down. So it's got little collar things which press over the ends of the fuse. 125 volt 7 amp fuse. Is that on the main battery terminal, or is that only for that output? Looks like it's only for this output. Alright, battery connector. Take off this top side control panel. I think this will be how you get it out, or is this just taking the door off? I guess it's just taking the door off. There'll be other screws around that, yeah, for removing it itself. So that tally light connector comes off of there as well. It's called operate. Operate. Microphone connector up there. So the handle can optionally have a microphone attached to it, but I don't think this one did. One of the other ones does. And then there's the viewfinder connector up there, which that can rotate. That, so you got to be careful before you attach it that it's not rotated into a weird way. So that's the viewfinder cable there. Now, how should we take this camera part out? So there's 4 screws on the front, which I think that removes the lens mount. But then perhaps we should take this section out of the body first, and that will make it a bit easier to manage. And these parts might be compatible with that other camera we took apart a long time ago, that the lens mount was broken in it and sort of snapped off, because that camera used the same viewfinder. Remember that a while ago? Quite a while ago. that. It was all cracked inside there around the lens mount. Someone must have dropped it and banged and broke it. Yeah, what's holding this? One of the wires is very short. See, they're all twisted together here. Not really sure why. These are all the same size. No, I think they're one pin different from each other. Clever. Yeah, even though there's one unused pin there, but they just made it that many ways so that it would key against the others. Now we have to undo that board connector thing. Oh, it's just a ribbon in that case. Okay, we've separated the camera part off, plus which comes with these switches, the VTR control, and it was white balance or something. Yeah, momentary up for setting like white balance manually, otherwise it stays down. Yeah, auto white balance. Then the lens connector, held in by a thread locker. Presumably this is 3 CCDs, not just one. Be a bit cheap. I don't know what we're supposed to be undoing first. Probably those 4 on the front first. Let's see, does this come off now? Not really. I think we still have to undo these ones on the front to release the CCD assembly. Okay, now all this comes apart. There's just some casting. It's got the ND filter selector on there, and the rubbery bit for the switch, which hasn't gone bad yet. And there's other cameras and all this gross ass stuff. As soon as you touch it, it's all sticking onto you. So this one has an automatic white balance sensor. There's a little filter thing through a hole there onto that. Be a blue or green something sensor. So there are 3 CCDs in there. They're pretty tiny though. They're attached by wires which are covered up. Get this cover off. All the good stuff in here. Okay, look at that. There's a plug there. And then that comes out. Okay, that's 3 CCDs. But they're all glued together, so we can't take that apart anymore any further. Oh, we can get the... well, there's the IR filter. Those are all glued in. Probably just glued onto the glass of the prism that separates the light. And it's just a 1 PCB, flexible PCB assembly that then gets folded around when the sensors get glued in place. That's quite neat. And then this complicated metalwork. Quite a complicated part there. Deep fold of thin pieces. Quite good. I don't know why they put this foam. I guess that just holds it. It's probably to hold this cable so that it doesn't get too close to other things. So it stays central. Reduce coupling onto other things. Power tracks presumably that neck right down to a single track to a narrow width once they get in there. And then that extra board, more flexible board which goes onto that. That's a very complicated thing. It's got a stiffener on it there with a connector soldered onto it. An end on whatever that is. And these are all Panasonic parts. Oh, and there's an NEC and a sharp thing. And then on the other side, more Panasonic Oki. And more Panasonic stuff. And some Fairchild chips. And then we've got this add-on board, which is where the CCD is joined on, isn't it? They're plugged into there. Some double-sided tape from that cable. Yeah, they made a mess. Got an NEC chip, another Panasonic chip. Probably some good op amps there for receiving the signal coming off of the sensors. This board will be about power supplies and timing things for the CCDs. And there you go, that's that stuff. Oh, this just has one ND filter, so it doesn't have a filter turret that rotates around. Just one thing, basic. They're pretty tiny CCDs as well. So this is definitely a sort of low-end camera entry level filter assembly. Oops. And then that's a lens mount. So usually what will happen is you undo the screw and then the rotating part will completely unscrew. Yeah. Okay, what have we got left in here? Some boards. And then there's this power supply kind of bit that's down in the bottom corner. Or was that audio section? Maybe both. Does not sound like a good combination, does it? Put the audio stuff next to the switch mode power supply. Look at that, there's a multi-way power connector thing there. And then that's the battery input connector. Oh no, there's no switch mode power supplies on this. Maybe that is a good place to put the audio then. Is that what's going on? A little bit, not completely. I think it's just... Was it the audio pickups from the VCR part? It was that. This wire, where did that go? I thought it went onto this. Oh yes. I think it's just a preamp and maybe a race head driver. Yeah, there's a bias control. Yeah, I think that's a preamp thing. There's the microphone connections, or audio input connections. Their tracks go up and onto that. No, they go onto that ribbon. Okay, so the audio stuff is on here somewhere. Looks like that, doesn't it? That looks kind of audio-like. That probably configures whether you want to have phantom power on or not on the microphones. Or whether it's line or microphone level. It's a bit sad having that stuck inside the camera, isn't it? Because you don't get to choose that on the outside, you just get to choose whether channel 1 or 2 is front or rear, and levels, that's it. So yeah, there must be selections here for choosing the levels. I just like dismantling stuff. It's interesting to see how it's been built. And I don't know, it's just relaxing, fun, interesting. And I've got so much stuff, we need to get rid of some of it. So the parts will be going to scrap metal recycling, including the electronics boards and things that I don't want. They take those, I don't know what they do with them, but there you go. In order to get that out, it has to be unplugged. Yeah, the viewfinder connector has been screwed in by a nut being done up right down this inside there, so it's not very easy to get out. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I want to see what's inside these viewfinders. Instead of taking that one apart, I've got another one that I'd taken apart previously. If I can work out where it is. Annoying. I went looking, and it was the first box I looked in. I just didn't recognize it because it's got lots of other stuff in it. Anyway, that's what's inside the viewfinder. Is it? Yes. You can see the things in there, and that's what you see there. Although, yeah, it's reversed because you look through the mirror when you're looking at the viewfinder. It's just such a huge one. I'm not sure why I made it so big and chunky, but yeah, that's what you get in it. It's that regular, was it 1.5 inch CRT? It's used in most video camera viewfinders. And then there's the other side of the connector. And then there's these boards. And it's got this sync separator chip there, some controls and things, and the power supply part, horizontal deflection, vertical deflection. But what's very neat about this is you see this will be manufactured as one long narrow board. Possibly that would be part of it as well. No, I think this would be made as another one. Looking to see on the mouse bites what it could have snapped off of. Anyway, these three at least are manufactured as one board like that. Surface mount. I don't know if that's through wave or not. Cunning design. And then the through hole parts. Surface mount on both sides. There's more surface mount parts over here. And you see these link connector things. They're not connectors, they're just links. So those are inserted like that, like a dip part across the gap between the two boards, and you see there's mouse bite breakaways there. So once it's finished being soldering, they just snap those off by bending it, and then these things clip into each other and hold it like that, hold it in position, which is quite neat. The springiness of the components and the wires push them apart, but that self clicks itself into this like folded up position for installing into the housing. I think that's really neat. It's such a well optimized design there. Wow, to minimize wires, but then look at all these wires. That helps. You don't have to produce cable assemblies to go between these boards. You just use this flexible link thing. That one there, that one pin hasn't inserted properly. You can see the leg of it isn't poking through the board as far as the other ones are, and because of that it pokes up more up there. So that's a little bit defective. I don't know why that happened. Anyway, it makes it easy to make a design that goes across multiple boards. Just design it all as one panel, put these link bendy thingies in, and then when it's finished soldering, they can fold up and you get a nice compact product. Great. I've seen those things used a bit in VCRs as well. Alright, I think we've done this, haven't we? It's been fully done, investigated. We should separate these two boards. It's just some of the standoffy things. So many parts in this. There's the board-to-board connector. Look at that, a big chunky one. Wow, there's heaps of components on the other side too. And that's the other side of the connector that goes between the VCR servo mechanism and the VTR main board. Is that a double-sided board? Yes. Yes, it's got these ground plane areas which have tracks on them on that side. Yeah, and those tracks there are just in line with tracks on that side. See, they'll go to that side of the connector, and the other ones come up on wires on the other side. That's a neat assembly. Oh yeah, I was going to look at this one too, from the camera section. Another interesting double-sided flexible board with wires between the layers. So I just have to somehow pick and place surface mount parts onto this and then send it through a reflow oven. Must be all stuck into a frame with little breakout sections. I wonder if those are what those little loops there are about. Maybe that's to do with breaking it out of the panel. And then that's just a basic single-sided flex. The boards. Yes, the standoffs between them. Very normal looking M3 standoffs. Female to female. I think normally there's some kind of push-in clip thing for joining the boards together, but I guess in this case they've used these metal standoffs because they want to have shielding, or not shielding, but a good ground connection between the two boards to join their noise together. Look at all the parts on that. That's an interesting one. It's got pins missing on each side. Heaps more parts on the back. And similarly on that one there, it has the TI chip on it. Oh, more kinds of CPUs and things. More of that really wide stuff. Wow, lots of stuff. Alright, that was a look at the AJ-D215 camcorder, video camera, that thing. And all its good bits that it's got inside it. Hopefully that wasn't too long and boring. Next time, or sometime in the future, we'll have a look at that similar camera that takes the small tapes, and that one we might actually be able to get it recording. Assuming it works, I don't know, I haven't turned it on before, so we'll turn it on for the first time on the video. So stay tuned for that coming up some point in the future. But for now, that's that camera.